LinkedIn. So we are technically recording right now, and it is a little delayed on LinkedIn. But Matthew, I'm pumped to be here with you. We do videos and live streams every single week. Transparently, it's usually my co-founder and I just kind of messing around. And often with a lot of mistakes and errors and things like that. But I'm pumped to have you today, and for everybody who's watching, Matthew Gregory is an absolute gem in this space. Okay, now we're technically live on LinkedIn, but Matthew, for those tuning in who haven't heard of Matthew, was at Weather Underground. He led Heroku with pricing, Azure. You founded Occam, and now you're starting a brand new startup, and we are pumped to have you here because not only are you a pricing expert, but you're an AI expert and you're a founder, and you kind of hit that Venn diagram of all three things we find
Give you a little.
really interesting.
I'll actually set some context here. I was walking down to work today, and I was like, I think I have like a trauma response around pricing, but it's some sort of horrible, sick relationship I have with it because like walking over here is like almost like, okay, go tell everyone about like all the complexity of pricing. It's such, I think, like a big, so interwoven to product and go to market and the customer experience. That's like almost like a where do I start like to go solve the problem for the whole audience.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about all the little stories like, oh, I gotta tell the story, I gotta tell the story. um I have like some weird addiction to this topic. I don't know
No,
what my problem is.
isn't that weird? I would challenge anyone to let us know if they don't have an abusive relationship with
Yeah.
with this topic, because for the most part it's one built out of pain. I feel like we're trauma bonding when we do this.
Yeah,
Like we're
totally.
just, yeah. So actually, but that's a great place to start. Okay, so you've really not just even from a pricing perspective, but from a tech perspective, you've gotten a chance over the past 2 decades to really see things evolve, or decade and a half. So like when you look at monetization today, and maybe this is a great place for people to start, or even just to understand, like what feels genuinely new versus what are old patterns that are repeating.
um I think the tactics around usage-based pricing has gotten a lot of gravity lately. I'm fairly anti-usage-based pricing, even though our product at Autonomy is usage-based pricing. So, like, this kind of is what I'm saying. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to say like there's a one-size-fits-all or what are the rules. Um, and I'll say I think the general theme of I think what we're going to end up talking about here is I think all this is so baked in and interdependent. Like you change one thing and it makes you kind of have to come back and rethink about the price.
Right.
And even like I cringe a little bit when you say like, tell me about monetization or like like pricing strategy. I actually think that one of the things people hear in that is okay, there's this punch list of things we're doing like in product development or building the product. And then there's like, okay, one more checkbox thing. What's the price to put on it? Almost like you're walking around like the grocery store with the little thing, and you have the apples and you put the little sticker on them with the price of each one. Um, I like firmly believe that's not the price, the number with the
Right.
dollar sign next to it is not that's not pricing, and it's like even not monetization. Like it's not a matter of going from like free to something with a number and now we've done monetization. This is all like very interworked and built in, because it
We're
really
almost like,
understanding how a customer gets value out of the product. It's one and the same of product.
yeah,
I see no distinction.
it's almost like a disservice, right, to just say pricing. We talk about this a lot, like there, and why we settle on monetization, but it still doesn't feel big enough or strategic enough. Maybe I'm not certain what the right explanation there is.
I
Uh,
actually have a very specific story for you
yeah,
on
yeah,
this.
yeah. Tell us.
This is like one of my little war stories. So I was at Heroku and there was a repricing that was happening with our Postgres product. Um, that our Postgres team kind of like operated in a parallel world to what I was working on at the time. And I think someone, said, hey, you should go talk to Matt about pricing. He's like really fired up about this topic. And they came over to me and were like, "Hey Matt, we want to like run our pricing past you. What do you think of this?" And they were like, "We're going to charge whatever it was, $20 per, you know, unit." And I was just like, "I can't help you. Like, I don't know if you want me to tell you the price should be 25 instead of 20 versus 200, or like there's like this isn't a numerical analysis sort of thing I can give you, and I don't know anything about like really the product or your customer. If you tell me 20 is the right number, like fine. But the thing that like if you really want my input on pricing, you had to come talk to me like 4 months ago when you were trying to figure out what's going in the denominator. Or are you doing usage based pricing? Is there a bronze, silver, gold? How is it being packaged? How are you delivering it? What's the upgrade path? How does someone get started? Like
Right.
that's pricing to me.
Right.
So like the day before like a product launches, if you want to come and ask me like, is 20 the right number to put on this product? I'm like, I,
Sure.
yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, and also, I would argue that like from I would assume most people watching this, unless there's someone like selling diapers at Procter and Gamble on this call, like none of us have the data to come up with the right number to go in the numerator. Like all of this is a massive experiment, so focus on the denominator. That's the hard part of pricing. We're kind of all taking wild guesses on the numerator anyway, and like you're not going to find the answer to that in a spreadsheet.
So, and this question is something that we've spent some time debating internally, and I'm curious about your perspective, but it directly relates here. Like some of the people listening will be building products. Some of the people listening have already built products. But at what point should this be part of the conversation? Is this as you are building the product, as you are getting that initial validation on the problem you are solving is solvable or worth solving for your customers? Or is there an order of operations to this that comes after the product is built?
I think it's a continuous feedback loop. I
Yeah.
mean, there's and then also it's like in the arc of an entire story. So I basically think that, and why it's so difficult is um I think that you need a pricing model, and the packaging of the product needs to be flexible enough that it's adaptable, because you're going to get it wrong. And what you need now is not what you're going to need later, particularly when you start getting more data. Or you're just like trying to initially, let's say it's a new product, you're just trying to get people, you're trying to get usage versus, trying to like worry about margins and some of these like, problems that come down the road. Um, and then also, how do you build in uh, if you know you're going to be wrong, the other truth here is that pricing changes are so difficult to pull off in
Mm,
reality. Like
mm,
it's really disruptive. And like you end up in a larger organization.
mm.
Like one of the sacred cows at Heroku was pricing, and like someone came up to me after I was like, I want to go solve this problem with pricing because I was of the opinion it was like a major problem. And it was basically like, this is the hill you're going to die on. And there were like people that like wanted to die on this hill with me, but like in an effort of like making sure I didn't get to the top of it. So like, I mean, like people have, and like customers are super opinionated on what the pricing should be or what they want, or it's not the way they consume it, or they don't think it's fair. Um, I mean, everyone has an opinion on this. So like, this is like I think the biggest, maybe the arguably the biggest crux
Yeah.
of product. Like one of my expressions I say all the time is like the hardest problem in computer science, next to naming things, is pricing.
So, okay, death by a thousand cuts, almost,
Yeah.
right? So many different hurdles internally. I rarely get a chance to talk about this, and I'm excited to. There's a big a lot of those things are psychological, right? There's a lot of those hurdles, whether it's political landscapes internally or customer perception of value or whatever it is, right? How do you, you had to manage this at Heroku. Like, how do you go through that? What do what are there frameworks? Are there processes that you thought through to attack the psychological side of these challenges and these hurdles?
Yeah, well, I think that what everyone actually wants is value-based pricing.
Mm.
Um, I think it's couched in two different ways, and it depends on kind of what side you're coming from. Like from the company point of view or the product manager point of view or the CEO's point of view, usually your customers are getting value out of the product way beyond what you're actually pricing for, particularly if like in our space in developer tools, like the alternative to using our platform is not having a team of 10 engineers, which by the way then you have to go hire and
Hmm.
on and on. So like time to market, like the salaries of 10 engineers, on and on and on, like on five different dimensions, we're like orders of magnitude cheaper. So like our product should cost a lot of money like to compensate for that. So like that's on the one side, you're trying to capture all that value that someone could have alternatively. Um, but on the other side, as a platform as a service that runs on infrastructure, like customers will say, well, I could build this myself on AWS and I know what network compute and storage and tokens cost. So therefore, like if I eyeball this and I have enough experience building things, 'cause I've been building stuff for a long time, like I think the infrastructure, I know you're running infrastructure, and I think the infrastructure that we're probably consuming is probably $50 a month.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you reconcile those many order of magnitude differences in value that someone
Yeah.
is seeing out of it? And it's also pretty difficult to convince someone like, how you're not gonna have to hire 10 people and they're not gonna pay you for like 9 people. So, like these two ends are usually pretty far away from each other. Like usually the customer wants to get as close to the metal as possible. And as a product person, you're trying to get as close to like the total value that the customer is going to derive from the product. And the answer is like some in this massive chasm between.
Yeah. So okay. So I think that brings up that's really interesting because I'm going to walk back to something you said, and we actually are already getting questions in the chat. So I'm gonna echo Lewis's question here because I'm curious. A lot of people will, on the surface, link usage-based pricing to value-based pricing. Well, if I'm using this, I must be getting value from it. And you said earlier, you're a big proponent, like you're against usage-based pricing. Okay, so make that make sense for us, right? What is so what's your grind? What's your axe against usage-based pricing? And maybe why should people decouple that from value-based pricing? Or maybe in some scenarios?
Um, I think that people like the concept of usage-based pricing because they think that they are paying. It's cost plus is another way to say it, right? Like,
Mhm.
I know I'm paying for whatever that compute network storage tokens, and like if you put like pennies of margin on it, like I know I'm getting this like at a great deal. But I'll
Right.
give you like an anti-example.
Yeah.
As a consumer, I don't like usage-based pricing. Like when I go out to dinner, like I don't like on the bill that it has, like it's like, you had a hamburger and a beer and whatever it is, and it's like, okay, there's that price. But then it's like they add the like in San Francisco, they have like a health thing it's like, don't expose your cost structure to me as a consumer. Just tell me what it costs, right? Like, and then you have tip on top of that and on and on. So like, and then there's like, like they call it the SF mandate. But like they don't build these into their cost structure. But like you can imagine taking like your bill when you go out to dinner and like running it to the extreme. Like you dropped a knife on the floor, we're going to charge you an extra dishwashing fee or whatever it is for it, right? Like you just kind of want to like know the price. And like an example of this in because I was thinking of a product that I'm like really fired up about right now and that I
Yeah.
think everyone can probably relate to. I use the Chat GPT Pro, the $200 a month thing, which I'm happy to go through
Oh
like
yeah.
why I use that version, and like as I think it's even like a good from a consumer point of view because
Yeah.
it's easy for me to start talking about this from like a product owner point of view.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to pay per token. Like what I want is like I'm like stretching is I'm trying to use AI like as much as possible so I really understand and get as many reps in using the tool, right? So I don't want to be thinking about like usage efficiency when I'm using it. Like I'm in high experiment mode. Like I do stuff that doesn't work all the time. But like if I'm paying per token, then maybe that starts impacting how I actually use the tool because I go, give me the brief response or whatever it is. And by the way, do I really understand how ChatGPT works to understand how like if I'm paying per token would really work? Because it's not just like that product is not just the LLM anymore. It's an agent and an application that's calling many different LLMs at many different token prices, and it's calling tools, and it's searching the internet, and it's doing all these other things. Like, do I really want to have like in my mental model while I'm using this product, the oh, I now have to understand how this entire thing actually works. So when I ask it something, I'm thinking, gosh, that like Brave MCP server search that's about to do, and that's going to use the expensive model because you said think really hard on this or do
Yeah.
some research.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what's coming back. So I think predictability is what a lot of customers all often want. Um, and so $200 a month, like I look at that and go, if they came out with a $2,000 a month version of this next month and they could convince me it's even marginally better, like I want like no throttle on how I'm experimenting with AI right now. So I would go buy the $2,000 a month thing because I get thousands of dollars of value out of the $200 a month ChatGPT
Yeah.
subscription that I have. So I'm not really worried about dollars per value. So, and in this particular situation, I don't want consumer based or usage based pricing. And this goes back to what's in the denominator. I'm happy with the predictable $200 a month.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, we look at this sometimes. You know, I generally feel there's a time and a place, but one of the biggest challenges, or I think what a lot of founders and builders and people managing pricing and packaging for companies look over when it comes to usage-based pricing is how it impacts or could impact the adoption of your product. Exactly what you just said, where hey, you're going to think twice about how you use or adopt that product if you're being nickel and dimed on a specific usage metric, right? And I think that's, as a product builder, really challenging. But the other piece of this as a product builder, and so I'm curious, like to understand your perspective here is, okay, you're now saying that OpenAI is only capturing a fraction of the value that you're willing to pay for this. And granted, they have millions of customers, and this is a tough thing for them to go and dig into. But they also have customers who are going to be on this 200 plan and maybe run them underwater with the amount of cost, right, that they put into that platform via their usage. So if you're a product owner and you've got a great company that you're building right now, you guys have some usage-based pricing baked in, but like, how do you think about this from a builder perspective, right? So flip the table a little bit and say, all right, I want to be mindful of my cost. I want to be more mindful of the value I capture, but I also want to be mindful of the percepted value and the ease to then be able to adopt my product. So how do you start to think about this then?
Yeah. So I'm going to introduce a very well-known framework in a second that
Yeah.
I feel like I've reinvented from first principles multiple times and just realized, oh shoot, I just reinvented the 4 Ps. This is like basics that they teach you at business school. Um, but to specifically answer your chat GPT, think
Yeah.
about what I said. I am in high experimentation mode. I don't even like when it was like, do I want the like $20 a month or $200 a month? I had to talk myself into the 200 because I was like, I don't like I need to like feel the like what is the best
Yeah.
version so I understand the limits of what I can do. Like I'm like I knew I was pushing the boundaries, so I like begrudgingly was like, I guess I'll do the 200. Like, but guess what they have? They've now like I've realized the value and I've started to learn the tool. So I would argue that that's all uh that's all customer acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really promotion. So
Mm-hmm.
this brings me back to the 4 Ps of go to market, which is product, pricing, place, promotion. and these things are all interrelated to each other. So what is the product? That's the pricing, or that like relates to pricing. Usually it's like what is in the denominator, right? Like it's the it's not just the product, but the packaging also. So it's like bronze, silver, gold, small, medium, large, enterprise, consumer, per gigabyte. What? So that's, I very much think that's like the denominator. The price is what's in the numerator. The place gives you opportunity to sell. That's like multi-channel. Are you selling it like direct to consumers on the web, or do you have a salesperson? Is it enterprise contracts only? Are you selling it through a reseller? Like, so is channel. So that's the place part of it. And this then comes back to promotion. So whether it's, free for the first month, or you have a free and then paid product, or if it's $200 a month while you're like, like getting hooked on the drug, because we know in our pipeline that we're going to have some $10,000 a month plan that as soon as we roll it out, you're going to go, yes, give me more. Um, that's really promotion. So, like, I think that this is how these things all interplay. And this, I think, also goes back to what we were talking about, like when you say like, oh, it's a pricing talk, like that's one of the four dimensions in like this go to market. All these are monetization. All these are like like really like what is the business model and the product.
Right, right. It's all interwoven, right? So okay, you're starting to go deeper into though something that we have spent a lot of time with customers on to date, and you had mentioned it earlier, and it's around graduation paths, right? And obviously, these four things are super important when you're thinking about these graduation paths. So yeah, I'm curious, how you said you've reinvented this a few times. I'm sure that you were working off of some similar structure at Heroku, and you're probably doing the same thing now. But like, how are you thinking about these four P's, or this framework when it comes to graduation paths, and what can other founders, what can other builders, um, also look for when it comes to, okay, how do I acquire a customer and then grow that customer as best as I possibly can?
The mental model I like to think about is like a conveyor belt of features coming down the path. And this is also a mistake, which is instead of just continuously at, like the conveyor belt comes down, it like dumps the feature into the box, and like another one comes down, dumps the thing into the box. You need like a sort that happens, like imagine the UPS facility and it's like pushing the packages to different trucks. Like that's a different product. So like, whether it's like small, medium, large, gold, silver, bronze, you know, the developer platform, the enterprise platform, the what, like whatever the way that you're like dividing up or thinking about things, and that stuff that's coming down this conveyor belt is going to be in a box that is not yet shipped, right? So instead of just thinking about like all the features coming down and just n plus one on the product over and over and over again, it's like I think at some certain points like, okay, bronze was the only, like it was just the product right at the beginning, right? But eventually we're going to roll out bronze, silver, gold, or whatever the t-shirt sizing or whatever it is, or some add-on, and then that's going to be a new thing that comes out, and then it allows you to kind of recast, and then there's another box, and maybe there's like some of the features, or like most of the features for a while are just going to be in the target a particular type of customer. And maybe those are features that people that are currently in the bronze box are asking for, and they're going to get upgraded to gold because you say, hey, you've been asking for these dashboards, or some security feature or
Right.
compliance thing or whatever it might be. Like we have those available, and it's now gold, and price is going to change accordingly. You can stick where you currently are, but you said you want to be over here, so
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. And are those real live conversations that you have with your customers, or are these things that you can infer otherwise?
I think customers are pretty like. I mean, you want to talk to customers as often as possible anyway, and figure out what they're doing and why. And I think that like customers are. I find customers to be fairly forthcoming if you're listening. And again, if you're like obsessed from a like pricing, packaging point of view, like they tell you fairly regularly what they're actually looking for.
Yeah.
Um, like, and maybe they might not position it that way, but I think if you like come into conversations with that from that point of view, and you ask a lot of why questions, like, hey, could you do whatever it is? Well, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, I'll give you for example that like the bronze version of our product that we currently have out, it costs $70 a month. Why? It's because it's below the amount of that someone would like if you're submitting your expense report, you don't need a receipt and you put it on your own credit card. So,
Yeah.
right? Like and like that's a thing for like the early
Understood.
adopters of our product. We want to reduce all that friction.
Yeah.
Um, so like and that's something that like we've heard people kind of like like as we were kind of rolling out this early usage-based pricing that's very much tied to compute network storage and LLM tokens, it was like, how much is it going to cost me? Or how do I know if this is going to run away from me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well,
Mm-hmm.
this is enough of a package for you to like get up and going, and you don't need to submit the receipt, and you can stick it on your credit card, click here and go, and you'll have enough to get going. But
Yeah.
like, you can scale this as far as you want to go, and we'll charge you a la carte, and like, and then probably on our roadmap in like 8 to 12 months, we'll probably recast all this in some new way, which because we know what features are coming down, and there'll be enterprise or bigger t-shirt size packages for people to use.
Yeah. And we just got a great comment from Anna Jacoby, who says the 4 Ps of marketing are the classic framework, as you said: product, price, place, promotion. But more and more people are adding a 5th P, people. And you're kind of talking a little bit there in terms of like persona, being able to consider, okay, what can this specific person that we're trying to acquire actually do, or how are they motivated, right? And in this case, it's, hey, they can do a $70 credit card swipe, right? Without having to submit an expense report. Is that something that you find yourself considering a lot too, as you're thinking maybe not even about your business model, but obviously about your product in general? Is like, who specifically can do what with this, and how do we maximize that?
That's segmentation. That's like yes, of course, the people part of it. And that's why you have different products for different people in different
Right.
segments and upgrade paths. So, and that's again the classic thing of, do you want to start? At what stage are you at the product and company building? With how many types of personas do you want to serve?
Would you ever consider having different business models for different personas?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think there's some people that want to be able to buy something on a credit card, and there's other people that want, give me the 12 months and I need to paper this out, and it's an enterprise contract.
Yeah.
So, there, other products that you're going to like resell through some sort of marketplace, maybe whether it's an AWS marketplace or, some other SaaS product marketplace. So, and I think those are all different personas.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I know we're at time, man, and I want to make sure that I'm not making you late for your next one. This is like
No,
really.
I booked out the whole hour, so
Okay. Good.
you can
Okay.
go
All
as
right.
long
Well,
as
then
you want to go.
if you don't mind, I have a few more.
Yeah,
Right?
let's keep going.
I'm loving this. So a few things, right? Let's maybe take a little bit of a left turn here. There's obviously a lot of uncertainty around, okay, how to price and package now, especially with AI and especially with like buyer perception changing in regards to what should this product or agent or whatever you're selling, what should it actually be able to do, and the value it should be able to drive. And certainly there's a lot of hype around a lot of different things. What do you think right now, if you're speaking to a young software team building an AI, what do you think is overrated right now that they might be thinking about in monetization or even with their product? What would you encourage them to skip and refocus on?
I think if I was going to give, I I'm very and any investors that are listening are going to probably hate this answer on the like from a local uh line, but I think that like we're in like a low to no margin world right now. Like
Hmm.
everything is improving and efficiencies and tooling are coming so fast. It's like really thinking about the promotion axis and using pricing as promotion.
Hmm.
Um, I think that like as uh, models become more capable and cheaper, like future that's all opportunity for future margin. Um, so I think that like the new thing because the underlying technology is changing so fast and it's growing so quickly. I think it's a massive opportunity for like future margin and I think an investor that's asking about margins at like the seed or A stage, like just
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. We've certainly spoken to a lot of really big companies who care about that data set at the earliest stages. I 100% agree with you. Right now, you're just trying to prove that people will pay to solve the problem that you're, in the way you're solving.
yeah,
And
and by the way, again, I like going back to first principles, like that
yeah,
this is the promotion axis.
right.
So yes, the product costs, $400 per unit. But we're selling for 200, and that's customer acquisition costs. It's a we're taking as a marketing expense.
Yeah,
And well, aren't you that and that let me tell you where this conversation goes. He goes,
yeah,
well, okay, but like you're now anchoring the person in like a lower price. Like I was talking about my $200 a month ChatGPT. Are they like I'm now anchored that I can do all of this work for $200 a month? Like, yeah, but like the future efficiency of the system is their margin because I
right.
am anchored at 200. So I think like understanding that we're in a like in a where the technology capabilities are growing so fast and so quickly, like there's like I guess I've like seen enough of these cycles that like the it'll work itself out. And also let's go back to what we were talking about, like the pricing that a product launched with is wrong. It's impossible to like figure it out empirically at the beginning. The underlying technologies are changing. So like the like cost, even the, like if you have take some cost plus approach, the costs are going to change. So like I think it's very much like the short side, do what's right for right now,
Yeah.
um, and uh, like solve this problem later is actually the just even knowing that's solvable later, I think is enough of a plan. Like in the future, you'll be smarter with better information. So make a decision when you're smarter, not now, and just kind of like take a good guess, try to build some sort of flexibility in, and go.
Yeah, I mean, it very much feels like this is very much this is the worst it will ever be
Yeah,
situation,
totally.
right? And it's gonna obviously everything gets a lot better from here. But so with what you just said, okay, when should a company or when should a product team really start dedicating a lot of time to optimization here?
Optimization on like trying to find the right numerator for the price.
Yeah.
You know what? I could make the argument I've never been in that position ever in
Hmm.
pricing. Like
Hmm.
I've thought about the denominator to the point where like I have like trauma response even just thinking about like getting on this podcast and talking about it with you. But you can see how like I get down to
Yeah,
the weeds of
yeah,
this. Like
yeah.
I could literally be here all day. I'm like I'm like Stockholm syndrome. Here I'm like I love my captors. Um, I'll be here all day. I don't want to leave. But um but I mean, like, I don't know. Like, unless you are running like if you want to like get into the numbers on like, like what you learn in economics class and supply and demand and running the experiments, and like if you want to solve this in a spreadsheet somewhere, go get a job at Procter and Gamble. Like
Hmm.
that's what people there do because they
Hmm.
have multiple markets, multiple product lines, like other brands, competition. Um, I just think it's very skeptical that like an optimization exercise in pricing
Hmm.
is realistic in most like tech products, and certainly any that are not like immature markets. It's
Yeah.
just it's okay. I'll give you one of my other like rules of thumb. Anyone that's ever worked with me like has heard me say this like ad nauseum. I learned this in my thermodynamics class when I was like 19 years old, in engineering school. I was in this lab. The professor basically said, you cannot gain accuracy through precision. So if you take a little bit of data and you go through some super elaborate process, you spend a week working on some model and you like it spits out some answer, the price of this product should be $72.53. Like the fact that you went through like a precise uh, process to calculate it does not mean you have accuracy. And basically, this is like a fancy way of saying, or a convoluted way of saying, uh, like we probably learn in like middle school science class, which is how many significant digits are we dealing with here?
Mhm.
Like, I would argue that most pricing exercises that people that are listening to this context, you probably have one, like one significant figure. So pick a number between 1 and 9, and at now the question is how many zeros, right? Like, and by the way, let's go back to ChatGPT. They have the free 20 and 200. Like, if they came out with 2000, that'd be like the next step, right? And I'm sure that there were like massive debates that should be like 25 and 250 or 40 and 400. Like, that, and I'm guarantee you someone also came up with a spreadsheet, but I'm not so sure that like who's to know whether like these two prices were the right prices until they roll it out and then start seeing behavior and seeing some upgrade paths. But by the time they get this data, they're going to be on to like the next version of the product, and it's almost going to be irrelevant again. So like I think that like no, my this expression of you can't gain accuracy through precision, it's really an exercise of being really clear on how many significant digits do you actually think you have to work with here.
Right.
And I'll challenge anyone to come up with a number bigger than one. Like figure out what the first number is and then figure out how many zeros go after it, and that's the pricing.
Mhm.
Precision you probably can deal with, and even at that it's probably still a guess. Like is it 30 bucks a month or 40 bucks a month? Like I don't know. That's like that's a hard. I don't. And you're like if you're going to be like honest about it, you're just guessing, regardless of what your stupid spreadsheet says or what like the VC on your board that
Right.
spent a bunch of time at the investment bank and with their head in a spreadsheet.
Well,
Like
in that point, you're probably splitting hairs, right?
yeah,
And time is spent much more, or time is spent more valuably elsewhere. And this is one of the. You said this. I want to walk back to this because this may be inherently curious. So you said this could be, your business model, your pricing strategy could absolutely be something that helps fund your, promotion access. Right. So like, okay, so
for
what's
sure.
that? What do you mean by that? And like, what could that look like?
Well, uh, I realize I'm like a lot of my little quips here are like just so like fundamental, but like they're also true. Like it's basic economics is not out the window here, right? Like
Right.
supply and demand curve. Like
Right.
if you lower the price, like you're going to sell more, and if you raise the price, you're going to sell less. Now there's like an inelasticity of demand and all the, like insert like all the just the basic economic stuff, but like as a general like like stick your finger in the wind, like the trade-off when you're trying to figure out like should it be 30, if let's say month is the denominator for the small package or whatever, however you've like come up with the other axis of the four P's, like you're probably going to pick up some more customers at the slightly lower price, and like so like that's promotion by lowering the price and at the expense of margin, and like startups are all thinking about runway. um, but you kind of need both. You need customer growth, and margin is good. And if you're wrong in the other direction, you pick 40 instead of 30 because you're really trying to decide between 40 and 50, and you should have been at 30. So you pick 40, but you're anchoring from a 50. Then you're going to have a little bit more margin and runway. So that's good too. So like pick a number and move the numerator is the least interesting part of this,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I think that, and I also think the mistake of like picking 30 or 40 is like uh, perils in comparison to picking the wrong denominator, because picking the denominator and the packaging, like that's where you understand the customer. Like, do they even want small, medium, large? Do they want per seat? Uh, do they want yearly pricing, quarterly pricing?
Yeah.
Like, is it on a contract? Are they clicking and purchasing with a credit card? Are they using up AWS credits in the AWS marketplace for this thing?
Yeah.
Like that's a whole market and channel in itself, right? So the denominator is the place to spend the time and where to lose sleep, not the numerator.
Yeah, 100%. We end up having to do a lot of education on this too. Our little quip is, guys, price point is like 10% of this. The rest of this is an exercise in how well do you understand your customers and what exactly they want to buy and how they want to buy it, right? And so it's, I think, illuminating for most to understand like the packaging side. It can be a marketing exercise too.
Well, and like metering is also hard.
Yeah.
So like metering is that's code that like is tracking, monitoring all the business rules that go into it. Like those are all super hard technical problems.
Right.
And it also adds complexity. So even like like being grounded in what can we meter, how are we going to track this, what are the implications of someone going over a limit, or hard, is it a soft limit, is it a hard limit, like do we upgrade them? Like there are a lot, like when you start getting into the weeds and just like the metering and the boundaries by which someone's either, if it's consumption based, accumulating, consuming, or if it's something where there's like bounds in a package because it's limits. How do you deal with those, and how do you deal with the limits? And there's like a lot of user experience that goes into that. So again, look what we just did. We went from pricing all the way back into metering. Now we're back at like
100%.
product and user experience again. And what that, like someone mentioned the persona, like
Yeah.
how is the person going to react to that?
Yeah. It's all cyclical. It's all interwoven. All of
Yeah.
it. I have not personally been at a place that has thought about this in that way. And I've seen such siloed execution of a lot of these concepts, but again, completely blocked off. Finance completely blocked off from product, completely blocked off from revenue. Everyone kind of making their own decisions inside of their own camps, and none of this gets connected, right? But and I think that's one of the reasons why we have so much trauma with it. It naturally involves so much cross-functional, collaboration and consensus. But who ends up actually feeling a lot of that pain? And it's the customer.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're at an organization that's big enough to have someone that's like dedicated to think about pricing, this is like a like individual. In my opinion, it's individual contributor, like cross-functional. This goes back to like when we were at Heroku and all in the same building. Like I would like go down and sit there and talk to the sales guys, like what the person's saying. They go, okay, like go talk to the designers. Well, like how's this going to get built into the user experience? Like, okay, now, but like we're gonna have to go build stuff. Okay, you gotta go talk to the engineering manager of like, okay, what's on your roadmap? Like, I want, like, we need to meter this thing because we have some idea for how we could repackage things. Like, where's that? Well, like, where's the build slot where we could actually roll this out? So,
Yeah.
And then fighting for the prioritization there. So, like, I think it's like and obviously if in a small organization, some of those people are just conversations in your head, which maybe comes up with the trauma of not being able to just run around the building and talk to different people. I've talked to myself all the time, but this is like the inner monologue of
someone
how
who
it all
manages
comes together.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. All right, I do want to be mindful of time because I asked for a little bit extra. We have blown over that, and I'm super grateful for you. We have we have one more from the chat. My good friend Allie. She hears your argument about pricing she hears your argument about usage-based pricing. She agrees with it, but She says what she thinks is challenging about the current market, especially for AI native products, is that customers don't always have a good understanding of how much they'll use the product, even if they see the value. So it's tough for them to commit to specific contract numbers. I think that's like when we're thinking
Budgeting.
longer term contracts, right? ELAs, enterprise type agreements. So what might be a good framework to think through this, or maybe middle path ideas? And this might even bleed really well back into the graduation path. Like, how do we go from usage based prosumer contract and expand that into an ELA with usage levers on top, given what the challenge that Ali just brought up?
Uh, I don't know. I think it's really hard because I think it depends what's in the denominator. I'll give you like two counterpoints. To hopefully like frame why this is so difficult. Like if you're selling seats, it's a very easy conversation to have with someone. You can say, well, how many people at your company right now that are going to use this product? Oh, we're going to put all 15 people on it. Great. You need 15 seats. It's going to add $100 a month. It's like $1,500 a month. Like we'll give you discount for the yearly contract, et cetera, signed here today. Like that's pretty straightforward. And then you go like, oh, but you're aggressively hiring. You're going to double the size of the company over the next month. You can what the consumption is going to be because it's seats and everyone is planned, and it's like it's an easy roadmap to see seats, right? But when it comes to like compute infrastructure, that's really difficult. Like at we here's where we ran into this specifically at Heroku. We had these things called dynos. It was a massive compute network and storage. And it was a made up thing by us. So first off, no one knew what it was. Arguably, is one of the great features of the product because people also love these things. It's a very cool concept. But when we were selling it through the Salesforce channel, we and these were all prepaid contracts. We'd say, okay, how many dynos do you need? And they're like, well, what's a dyno? And like we'd explain it. They go, well, how many dynos is my app going to need? And by the way, we're going to launch it, and then it's going to grow, and hopefully we're going to get users. So how many dynos is that? And we're like, I don't know. It depends like how you build the app, right? So it was like we were in these sales conversations. It was like there's literally no one in the world that could tell you how many dynos you need while we're having the sales conversation. You're just gonna have to build your app, and we'll wait and see. But probably some range of number, and like people also don't like that because budgeting is a major factor depending on again the persona and the certain buyer. So I think this is where it becomes that's an example of it's like where it's a really hard problem, and if you're selling seats to people that based on hiring plan, it's a lot easier. So I think it just depends on the product.
Yeah, we struggled with this hard at Pendo. And I helped run two pricing changes there, business model changes there, and we never really fully moved away from that specific challenge. We priced based on monthly active end user that came into your product that we track data on, and where it created a lot of challenge for us, two places. One, pre-sale, where we could sort of tell you, but you needed to install the product, and we needed to collect data for about a week, and then we would extrapolate that out, and even then that's not super accurate. And then
And by the way, there's the stand-up cost. You have to convince the person to go run that experiment with you, which is very expensive for them. So like you've collected no money and they've spent a lot of money. Just even that's super hard problem.
Oh my gosh. Well, it caused so much friction that eventually we just would throw, you need 50,000 monthly active end users in there, right? Yeah. And that caused challenges all the way on the back end where, we've driven tons of value. We are, we've spent 9 to 10 months with the customer implementing and helping change their processes, and they love us, but then they have 20,000 active end users. And they go, so cut the contract in half.
Yeah, and like engineers are super pedantic and love spreadsheets. Yeah. So if like you sell them 50,000 of something, they only use 20 of it. Like, I think this is where usage-based pricing also becomes a problem. If the mental model for it is, can the user like reverse engineer the cost structure? And is it
Hmm.
like how close is the pricing model and what's in the denominator to stuff they're familiar with, like, you know, AWS
Right.
EC2 or something that they're super familiar with and have experience. If those things are like close to each other, like this conversation is coming because they're like, I don't understand how like we're paying, you know, 3 orders of magnitude different than what I think the underlying compute is. That's all your margin. It
Right.
seems like we now have a place to negotiate
Yeah.
here, right?
100%. I feel like a time and a place, but where we really struggled with usage-based pricing at Pendo was we were value sale oriented and we wanted to find price points that matched the value that we were providing, but then the usage metric that we were moving off of was a 100% left turn off of that. Right. And so I'm not saying like blanket statement that usage based pricing never fits a value based delivery, but I think it's hard. I think it, to your point, really, really challenging. So,
Maybe this puts a bow on it from a
yeah, yeah,
like why usage based or sorry, why value based pricing or things are the best is because everyone's happy. The
yeah,
person doing the selling is going, oh, I'm making great margins here, and the person that's consuming, if you like, this is where like a little bit of ignorance and just like going on feels is a great thing. You're uh like it's a little bit like my chat GPT or going out to the
yeah.
restaurant.
I'm
You
getting a
get done
great
and you're
deal.
like,
I'm getting
hey,
a
that
great
was
deal.
like a great meal, or I got a lot of work done. Like, I'm really happy. Like,
Yeah,
just don't worry about what the supplier, like,
yeah,
it costs them to run it. Just like live in a little bit of bliss. And like, as a consumer, you're probably just happier and you're getting good value all the time.
yeah.
So,
No,
what could be better?
I agree. Okay, last question. This is the hot topic then.
All right.
All right. So is this the end of seat based pricing, or are we going to see it stick around?
I think for stuff that is like maps to seats, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. HR, CRM, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, 100%. I agree. All right, my friend. This was awesome. Dude, thank you so much. This was really great. I hope a few things happened here. One, I hope you don't go home and have tons of bad dreams. I hope we haven't like resurfaced all of the old pain points that kept you up at night. But if we did, grateful because we learned so much from you today, man.
Yeah, I love this
I really,
topic. So
yeah.
thanks for having me on.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
been
I
fun.
appreciate it. I think any hour spent with you from my perspective is one where I've learned so much, and as someone in this space talking about it, helping founders with it, like this has been excellent. I'm going to pull a ton out of this and continue to share it with others. But thank you, man. You're always welcome. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for having me on. I'll see you
Awesome.
later.
See you.